songwriters, my name's Elise Cabret. I am a songwriting coach at DAWter, here to help you write and record the songs of tomorrow. Now, if you're a songwriter and you want lots of tips and advice on how to make your songs the best they can be, please consider subscribing to my channel. In this video, we're going to be looking at some songwriting foundations. So particularly, we're going to look at how to structure a song using the hit song formula. Now, this is a formula that all pop writers use to write hits, and you can use it too. I'm going to show you how you can apply this to your own songwriting. And we're also going to go through each of the song sections, so verses, bridges, choruses, pre-choruses, all these different sections, and I'm going to explain to you the function of each section so you understand how to use them in your songs. Make sense? Awesome, let's get started. Okay, so the hit song formula. This is an actual formula that you can use like a blueprint in your songwriting, and it'll help you structure your songs so that you know that they're gonna stay interesting to your listeners and hold their attention the whole way through. This formula gets used countless times in the music industry, and once you learn it, you'll start to hear it all the time when you're listening to songs. Are you ready to hear it? Okay, the formula is intro, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, then a little break, then another verse, pre-chorus, chorus, bridge, chorus, chorus, outro. That's it. Sounds pretty straightforward, right? Now, I promise you, you have heard this formula countless times before. It is used constantly in popular music. And the reason for that is because it works. It sounds good. Now, a lot of us artists tend to want to steer clear of formulas because we want to be original and we don't want our songs to sound too formulaic. But this formula is actually a tried and true technique that you can use basically as a starting point. It is completely up to you if you want to break out of this formula, so you don't have to use it, but it's really important for you to be aware of when you are changing the formula, because as listeners, we're so used to hearing this in songs, we come to expect the sections to be ordered in this way. So if you as a songwriter are making the creative choice to break out of this formula, that's going to surprise your listeners. It's going to feel unexpected. So it's important for you to know the formula so you know when you're doing this. Does that make sense? As I said before, you're going to start hearing this all the time when you're listening to music. But some really good starting points if you want to go and listen to a song and hear it really clearly. Bad Blood by Taylor Swift. Can't Feel My Face by The Weeknd. Get Lucky by Daft Punk. Shape of You by Ed Sheeran is another good one. And Never Let Me Go by Florence and the Machine. So these are all massive hits that I'm sure you've heard of and you've heard many times before. But if you would like to hear this formula in a really clear, obvious way, go and have a listen to those songs and see if you can hear it for yourself. All right, so now we know how to structure our songs, how to put each of our sections together and how that should look. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail into what those song sections actually entail and what their function is within a song. Okay, so we'll just do this in order, starting with the intro. Now, the intro is pretty straightforward. Its function is literally to introduce the song. Now, you might do that through a couple of instrumental bars. You might do that by introducing the hook. So you could maybe play a bit of the chorus or have an instrument play a bit of the vocal melody in the chorus. The creative choices are up to you, but the idea is that the introduction gets us into the vibe of the song. It tells us what kind of song we're about to hear. Next, we have the verses. So verses are the most lyrically heavy section. It's usually where a lot of our storytelling goes on. Typically, you're going to hear about between 3 and 4 verses per song. And each time we hear the verse, the melody is usually quite similar, like the vocal melody, but the lyrics are different.
Tired of being what you want me to be, feeling so faithless, lost under the surface.
Next up, we have an optional section that a lot of new songwriters tend to ignore. This is our pre-chorus. Now, pre-chorus can actually be really powerful, particularly if you're a pop writer and you want to write really catchy songs. The job of a pre-chorus is literally to set up the chorus. So it's to build tension and anticipation, build that energy so that when we hit the chorus, we get that real payoff moment.
Every step that I take is another
of course leads us into the chorus. Now, the chorus is arguably the most important part of the song, usually. Maybe with the exception of hip hop, where the verses and the storytelling is more important. Also maybe folk too. Sometimes folk music that's quite lyrical, the verses are more important. Anyway, I'm contradicting myself. But in popular music and most genres, the chorus is the most important part of the song. And that is because it is the most memorable part. Its job is to get stuck in our brain and make us want to sing along. And to help us remember this song and want to hear it again and again. It also generally sums up what the song is about, not just lyrically, but in its mood.
I've become so numb, I can't feel you there. Become so tired, so much more aware.
Next, typically after our chorus, we'll have a little bit of an interlude or a break, and this might just be a couple of bars. Again, not every song will do this, but a lot of them do. And the job of that little break is to really allow the song to breathe for a second. So we've just had a big chorus there where everything's been at its peak, all the energy is peaking, and we want to bring that vibe down a little bit before we go into the next verse. Now, interludes or breaks are usually instrumental. As we learned from our hit song formula, after the instrumental break, we typically go into a second verse, another pre-chorus, and a chorus. And then what happens is we have a bridge. Now, a bridge, again, is another optional section that sometimes gets overlooked, but it can be quite transformative for your songwriting. So the role of a bridge is essentially to break up the verse, chorus, repetition. It usually happens about 2/3 of the way through a song, and by then we've usually heard the chorus and the verses a couple of times, and we're at risk of checking out. So the bridge is there to just grab our, just grab our attention, do something different, just keep things interesting for our listeners. And that's why pretty much anything can happen in the bridge. You can introduce new chords, a whole new melody, a whole new lyrical perspective. Possibilities are endless.
And I know I may end up failing to.
By now, we've heard a couple of verses, we've heard a couple of choruses, we've had our interest recaptured by hearing something new in the bridge. Now it is the end of the song, and this is the time where we usually hit our listeners with a double chorus. So we ramp it up and throw everything we've got at these choruses. So often you'll hear more instrumentation in the choruses, the last two choruses, just to make them even bigger than the ones we heard previously in the song. This is our everybody sing along moment, okay? So once we've gone through our last two choruses, everybody's sung their hearts out, we've gotten across everything we wanted to say in the song. The last section is, of course, the outro. Not every song will have an outro or need an outro, but if we've had a particularly climactic chorus, we might want to take a moment to lead our listener out of the song rather than just cutting it off right there. So an outro might be just as simple as a fade out, so you might just hear the chorus repeated and fading out slowly. It might just be the instrumental chords that sit underneath the chorus without any vocal, or it might be a new section. Like I think the most famous example of an outro is Hey Jude. So you've got that, it's a massive section actually for an outro, but it is an outro, that na 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 na. It just keeps going and going and going. So that is essentially leading the listeners out of the song. It's an outro. But typically speaking, our outro is not the pinnacle moment of the song as it is in that example. We just want to tie it up with a neat little bow and we're out of there. Okay, so there you have all the different song sections and their functions. I hope that's given you a little bit more clarity around what you're trying to achieve with each of those sections. It's also really good to understand these things so that when we're in the ideas stage of our songwriting process, when we're coming up with ideas, we might have a bit of an idea as to what section of a song those ideas belong in. So usually we'll save our best, most memorable lines for the chorus. We'll keep our storytelling parts for the verses. If we've got a change in perspective or something a little bit left of field, that can be really good for a bridge, and so on and so forth. Now, if you would like to hear everything you've learned in this video put into action, I actually wrote a song that demonstrates all the points that I've made in this video in the song itself. It's called the Song Structure Song. And it really is a fun way to solidify this information and really understand how it works in practice. So if you'd like to check out my song structure song, I'm gonna post that in a separate video after this one. So I'll put up a little, whether it's this side or this side, I'll put up a little tag so you can click that and check out the song structure song and tell me what you think. Hope you found this video helpful, and I will talk to you soon.